Let's talk about angle of attack, what it does, how you control it, and how, if you know this information, you can go from hitting stingers to hitting moon balls with ease. So the first thing is, what is angle attack? Angle attack is the vertical portion of the club's pathing. So the club travels down, it starts to level out, and then at some point it's going to travel up. Where that is relative to the golf ball is going to determine whether we're hitting down or up and by how much. So I want you to think about how this trail side works. We set it at some point and then we use it at some point. When we're using it, it is traveling down. Once we've used it, typically it's going to be level to slightly up. So if I allow myself to move farther forward in the arc without having used this, typically my angle of attack is going to be steeper. Typically with steeper, we get lower lofts. If I start to use this earlier, by the time I get to the ball, angle of attack is going to be shallower, loft is going to be higher. The last little thing you need to know is typically this lead side is what's helping determine when this is going to start to happen. That's not completely true across the board, but it is something that does help or can hurt. So as I start to extend my lead side, typically I'm either going to create a force that starts to allow this to line up sooner, or I'm going to create a geometry problem that requires me to use this to stay in contact with the floor. So if I'm in here and I start to use this later, this left knee is going to keep me down longer. And so therefore I don't need as much release on this trail side to stay in contact with the ground. As this lead side starts to extend, I need to start to release more and more to stay in contact with the floor. So I'm going to work myself through a little drill, just going through this protocol of timing when the left knee starts to extend and tying that into this. So as soon as I feel my left knee go, it's going to trigger a response out of my right side. So for the first swing, I'm not going to extend at all. I'm going to feel like I stay down forever. And we're just going to look at angle of attack here. And so we can see it again, when you don't have data, you can just see it in the ball flight. It is quite low. Our angle of attack is going to be very steep. So there we have a 13-degree angle of attack, so 13 degrees down. Now on this next one, instead of holding on to it forever, I'm going to feel like, or right around impact, I'm going to start to use my extension and trigger that release. So it's going to get roughly in the middle of my feet, maybe just past 6 o'clock. And I start to use my extension. The extension triggers the release. And so we see a ball flight that is higher, not high. And we should see, when we get the data, that the angle of attack is shallower. So now we're at 11 down. If I feel like I'm getting to 630 and start to trigger the release, and again, I have the lines on the ground to kind of help me keep everything constant. I'm not changing ball position or anything like that. I'm getting the hands down to 630, and then that's going to trigger my release. And so now we again see a big substantial increase in trajectory, and we're going to see a decrease in downwardness of the angle of attack. So 7 degrees down. So now if I get in here and, kind of around my trail foot, 7-ish, 7:30-ish on the clock, trying to get in here, and I'm going to try to use this lead side and let that trigger the response out of the wrists. Again, we're going to see the ball flight climb even higher. Angle of attack should decrease. And then I probably have 1 left in me, so that's 4 down. With the ball in the middle of my stance and hitting an iron, my brain doesn't really want me to go too much shallower than that, but I'm going to try my hardest to feel like I'm kind of back here, throwing the club almost behind my trail foot. Not reality, but again, just very tough to make yourself do this with an iron. So big lead side early, and then follow that with the release. And so now, made the ball climb even higher. There's that moon ball we were talking about, and angle of attack should be pretty shallow. So we're down to only a degree down. So again, the longer you save this up, the more down we're going to be hitting. The earlier you go, the more you throw, the higher it's going to be.